everyone. Welcome to Backstory Sessions. I'm your host, Matt. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey everybody, it's Kat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host, Matt. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Kat. Hey, everyone. How are you?
Well, here we are.
Indeed we are. Season 11.
Yeah. Since I heard that, a song's been going through my head.
Oh, really? What's that?
I'm finding it hard to believe we're in season 11. Like in heaven, as Brian Adams.
Okay.
But it went through my head, and I'm thinking, really, season 11?
Yeah. It's,
That's
yeah.
hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, it's been, what, 3 years now? Or are we coming up on 4? I don't even remember.
Coming up on the third year. So,
The end of the third year or the beginning?
I want to say that we started around February, March, I believe.
It was March, yeah. I just don't remember what year.
So it would have been, all right, so, it would have been in 2021, right?
No, 2020,
2020.
I think. Yeah.
2020, yes.
All right, so we'll be finishing our third year.
Yes, we will. So in 3 years, we have done over 150 episodes.
Yeah.
We are now in the 11th season. So I think we've done very well.
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting. We saw some good growth last year, and it's going to be hard to top this year, I think.
But look who we're kicking it off with, Artimus Pyle. So yeah, that's a great way to keep the traction going.
Yeah, Artimus was gracious enough to come back and talk about his new project. And, it's so, I said it last time when we talked to him, it's so strange talking to someone as iconic as him.
Well, last time we interviewed him, the album was just starting to be, recorded, and they were choosing the collaborators, who's going to sing. Freebird was the big mystery,
Yeah.
And he kind of left us with that cliffhanger. And now, of course, we know it was Dolly Parton.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. But now we also know, because Anthems is being released this Friday on Groundhog Day, I might add.
Right, February 2nd.
Yeah. So now we know who is singing all of the anthems. And I think that's a really cool title. I really want to ask him about that, and, how they chose that title, or who chose the title. It's really very fitting, I think, for the work that's on there.
Yeah, I know they have some pretty, you mentioned Dolly, and I know there's some other really great collaborators on there. So
yeah, Sammy Hagar and Simple Man.
That's right. And I think I saw that Ronnie Dunn was on there from Brooks and Dunn.
Yes.
I don't remember who else off the top of my head, but anyway, we'll talk to Artimus about that and get his input on what, who all was on it, and, some of the stories behind getting them to be on it.
I think a difficult thing in this interview that we're getting ready to do with him will be, Gary Rossington's passing, and how he feels about that, in light of, Gary was on the album, and it's in that way, I'm sure it's very sad that he is not here to see the album drop on Friday.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, but I'm sure will give us the whole rundown on what happened with that.
Well, Artemis is fascinating. I mean, I have to say, like, surviving a plane crash, not once, but twice.
Right.
I mean,
And then getting
that
shot.
is getting shot, yes.
Yeah.
And still, like, I would never get back. Well, I would never get back on a plane if I survived. One plane crash, I'd be like, okay, I was so lucky because the chances of survival are not that high. And then to do it a second time and survive, I mean, he is an amazing person, despite his talent for drums and, all of the other things like that are related to the music career. I mean, just in his perseverance, I think I find that very motivating and very interesting. It's just very odd to me.
Yeah, I'll be interested to. I mean, I don't know how he gets around these days. Like, if he does fly a lot or if he spends his time on the bus and stuff. So, be interested in hearing about that. And what is, if he is like you said you wouldn't get back on a plane. So, I wonder if he's a little averse to that. But we'll see.
Well, I didn't. I know he talked about this in the last time we interviewed him, but didn't his father die in a plane crash?
He did, yes.
So I mean, like that would be just so. I could not be on a plane if all those things happened. I just, I just know that about myself. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. We'll find out what his feeling is about that.
Yeah. Well, I find it fascinating. I'd love to have a little bit of whatever that is that, I don't know if it's bravery. I mean, I don't know what it is. So would you get back on the plane
Yeah, probably. I
like
mean,
after two,
maybe
two?
not like right away, but I probably would.
I can't, I just can't see it. Uh,
No, I mean, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. So,
yeah, I just don't think I could, but I
well,
admire it.
I mean, and as far as Artemis goes, his band plays all over the world, I believe. So, I mean, he kind of has to.
Yeah, I mean, it is I'm sure a major part of uh, being an entertainer and having to get from place to place.
Hmm.
But even at that, there's just limits to what my mind it would be constantly going through my mind. And I just know that I would just be traumatized. I think that's how I feel I would be. And two times, I mean, maybe like the more it happens to you, the more you think like I'm invincible.
Maybe.
It's not meant for me to happen, to die this way. But my mind's not wired like that. So I think I'm gonna post this in the backstory group tonight after the episode, just to see what the listeners think. Would
Yeah,
they get back on the plane or not? Good
that's,
question. You think?
yeah, I guess that is a good idea. Good question. I think I know what the outcome will be, but
What, more used than me?
I would think that more people would not.
More me's than you.
I think, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think so too. But you got to admire the use. I mean, I do. I admire Artemis, and I look forward to just hearing this whole story because it's been a while, and now it's like we were, being teased to see, and now we get all the answers. It's like great. I can't wait.
Yeah, our last interview with him was pretty short. This one will be a little bit longer, I'm hoping.
Yep. I feel like he's just gonna open right up to us because
Yeah,
we have that effect on people.
that's right. Well, let's jump in and talk to Artemis about his upcoming project, Anthems. And, then we'll get into some of the other stuff and see what he has to say.
Let's do it.
We've been working on this thing for years. It seems like years. But when you're working with 14 different artists and 14 different managers and 14 different record companies and 150 different lawyers for all these people, it takes more time than we thought. But it was worth it because I got Gary Rossington, who we lost 6 months ago. So yeah, the biggest thing for me, there's 2 points I want to make. The one is it was really difficult navigating Nashville
Mm-hmm.
and all of the shenanigans that go on in Nashville with the lawyers and the managers and all wannabes and the butt kissers and the brown nosers.
Right. Yeah.
But it was worth it because we got, I worked really hard to get Gary Rossington on Freebird with Dolly, and it happened, and we got it done. And after Gary was lied to by the management company that Dolly had pulled out of the, pulled out of the project, and it wasn't true. None of that was true. They were just trying to ruin it for everybody. But we got Gary on there with Dolly, and then we lost Gary, about 6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
The last founding member of Lynyrd Skynyrd, and it left me as the last living member of Lynyrd Skynyrd. And it's not something I'm bragging about for sure. It's not a good feeling. As a matter of fact, it's a bad feeling. But our band has been together 15 years. We're not going to change what we do. We go to these beautiful venues all over the country and these older theaters that have been, remodeled and fixed up, and really cool festival sites and, all over the country. And that's what we're going to continue to do. We take Lynyrd Skynyrd music into places that the bigger bands, they won't play someplace unless they get $200,000.
Yeah.
And, unless there's 20 gigs in a row. We recently did a gig in Ruidoso, New Mexico. It was a one-off. We drove 5 days on the tour bus to go out there and back. We played one show with, one of the country artists out there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no bands that would do that. They would, demand a certain amount of money. They would demand this and demand that. And we just get on the bus and go. And even though our agency had no respect for us whatsoever by doing that to us, when they knew that it was hard on everybody, the band, the crew, the driver, I got rid of all of the agencies in Nashville because they're jaded. Unless you're Taylor Swift, they're not going to really pitch for you. And now we're with a company out of New Jersey called Blue Raven, and Sean at Blue Raven, and they stand up for us. They are on our side, and they're about us. And in Nashville, they say anything that they think you want to hear, but they have a hidden agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're very happy to have our agency in New Jersey, and we got the album done. It's called Anthems.
Yeah.
And the worldwide consensus is that it's a very solid, good record with great players. And of course, all the basic track is Brad Durden and Scott Rains, Jerry Lida, David Fowler, and myself, Artimus Pyle, USMC. And that we were the soundtrack. We were the basic track on every single song. And we had Dolly's producer, Kent Wells, who's been with her for 35 years. He was our producer on this project. And he got me a big, fat Nashville drum sound, probably the best drum sound I've ever had. And their thunder. And sonically, the album is strong and rocks. And the performances of our band, we got up to Nashville and they started saying, well, look, if we need this, we'll just get some session players, to play on it. And I said, no, you won't.
Yeah.
The basic track of APB is APB.
Right.
The five of us. We're not going to bring in a bunch of ringers. we played this music for 15 years and we play it better than anybody in the world.
Right.
So, Matt and Matt, but we're just going to continue to do what we do. And the album comes out February the 2nd, which is Groundhog's Day coming up here. There are 3,000 copies of the album already out. We did about 1,500 pre-sales starting last year. It seems like we've been working on this thing for 8 years, but the pre-sales went out, 1,500 of them, and then there are 1,500 vinyls available.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate y'all letting me, rant here. I want to make it perfectly clear that the majority of the money, the lion's share of the money on this album goes to my rock and roll friends that are up in heaven. I'm the last guy.
Right.
I'm, and it's like I wanted to do something that would make money for the children and grandchildren of my rock star friends, that I always think about them like in a parallel universe, playing on the largest stage ever seen in the history of stages.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, the last thing I heard from Gary Rossington is he texted me and said, Artimus, this album sounds great. I love being able to play with Dolly on Freebird. Ronnie would love it. The whole band would love it. They're looking down, giving the thumbs up. I love you. I love your family. I love you, brother. Can't wait to see you. And because we were kept apart for years and years, so there'd be more money for the management companies to steal.
Yeah.
And but Dolly on Freebird was the impetus for bringing Gary and I back together as old friends that toured the world together and played for the rock and roll kings and queens of the planet. And it was really worth it for that part of it, for Gary to be on there with Dolly, two icons
Mm-hmm.
on an iconic song, Freebird, and for Gary and I to be able to work on the project together. And I don't know if y'all know this, but that was the last thing Gary Rossington recorded, was his slide solo with Dolly Parton, on Freebird.
Wow. I did not know that. So
And it's on her album, Freebird, number 30.
yeah.
And it's of course on our album as well. So excuse me, I interrupted you. What were you
No,
gonna say?
you're fine. I was just curious, like, so you said the management had kept you apart, but so you didn't see each other very often? Is that true, or?
Oh, absolutely true. I was of course poison,
Right.
because
Yeah.
of all of the false allegations that had been
Yeah.
posed against me. And
Yeah.
if any of that stuff would have been true, I'd be in prison right now.
Yeah.
But none of it was true. I'm not in prison. I've never hid under a rock. I've always been in the public eye.
Yeah.
But the management company, they turned their back on me, and there was a time when the band, was so
Yeah.
into a gluttonous consumption of cocaine and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't care about me, our friendship, my life, my family, anything.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that they cared about was the next, line of cocaine.
Yeah.
And that was years ago. That
Right.
was years ago, and in all fairness. But there was a time when they told me that I saved their lives in the plane crash, and that I certainly needed some moral support on my side going through a false accusation.
Right.
And they left me for dead because they had this gluttonous drug and alcohol problem. But I'm not, it's not sour grapes. I'm only saying the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgave everybody for everything. And, we were just trying to do something good, positive for the name of Lynyrd Skynyrd, and we did it. And Gary was a part of it. And I will, be forever thankful that the project brought us together, because it wasn't ever about money for me.
Yeah.
It was always about the music. And Gary was about the music, but everybody surrounding him, a very sinister crowd of crooks. It was about the money.
Mm-hmm.
And Gary was only 71. And to me, they worked him to death. he had like 7 heart attacks and heart problems, and they would always like, beg him to go back out on the road so they could make that damn money.
Right. Yeah.
And so it finally took its toll. But Gary's service, I was there with my 2 guitar players, Jerry and Scott,
Mhm.
and it was a very dignified service. There was 1,000 people there from all over the world. Everybody loved Gary, and Paul Rogers from Bad Company spoke some really nice words
Wow.
about Gary. Simon Kirk was there, the drummer for Bad Company as well. They're
Mhm.
old friends.
Yeah.
Travis Tritt sang a song for Gary. Kid Rock was there representing, showing his love for Gary.
Yeah.
And all of Gary's famous, beautiful guitars were all over the chapel next to pictures of his grandchildren and children and his family. And it was a very dignified service. And, Gary and I and the whole band, we used to love watching Andy Griffith. And as you were leaving after Gary's service was over in the chapel, and we were going to go to graveside, as you're leaving the chapel, they were blasting the theme song to the Andy Griffith Show. and it was so awesome. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes because, even on our bus today with APB, and we play Skynyrd music better than any band in the world. Even on our bus, before we go on stage, on our bus, we always have Andy Griffith playing while we're getting ready, and gearing up to go out and putting on our, our in-ear monitors and getting wired up and everything. We got Andy Griffith on there because it just makes you feel like you're home, And so, yeah, we miss Gary pretty badly, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. He was certainly quite the guitar player for sure. And I'm sure you have lots of great memories of touring with him. And I'm curious, like, how did the meeting go when you saw him for the first time in such a long time?
We didn't actually meet. We talked about, getting together for lunch. No lawyers,
Yeah.
no, wannabes, nobody but just Gary and I. We talked about, that would happen. And then, of course, Gary passed. But,
Right.
we never actually physically got together because I knew the way to handle it to get Gary on Freebird with Dolly was to let Kent Wells, who was a respected producer
Sure.
and Dolly's friend of 35 years in Nashville, I was going to let Kent, make that happen. And I worked with Kent on one side and Gary on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
and a third party, a mutual friend of Gary and mine, a man named Timmy, that grew up, next door to Gary and I. When I lived with Gary on at his place in Florida on the St. Johns River.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made it happen against all odds. As I say, Gary was lied to by people telling him that Dolly had pulled out of the project and that I wasn't going to pay any of the licensing fees on all these songs. Well, that's just ridiculous. I mean, I'm going to work with Dolly Parton and the top people in the business, and I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to steal Freebird from some, not pay the licensing fees and the mechanicals, songs like that. No, hell no. And as I said, I reiterate, all the money, the lion's share, is going to go to the children and grandchildren of Gary and Ronnie and Billy and Alan and Leon.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the money's going to go. We did this as a tribute. My band did. We are a live band. That's how we make our living. We get on the bus, we go to the gig, we play the show. People love us because we play the music so sincerely and not with a bunch of, it's not like a circus act where we're running around, doing flip flops and everything.
Right,
and we play the music and sing the words.
Right.
And the crowd, the people that come and see us, they really appreciate our presentation, that it's not some big flashy, gaudy, we're here for the money thing.
Right. Yeah.
So, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
So you don't have a private jet at this point?
We have 3 Gulfstream 5s.
Oh, okay,
And,
cool.
yeah, and one of them's mine, one of them belongs to the crew, and I let the band use the other one. And you know, we we make a little money in the gigs, but it costs
Oh yeah.
$2 million in fuel to get there.
Oh
So
Lord.
no, we have a we have a tour bus, a 1999 Prevost.
Uh-huh.
We call her Pearl. She's pearl white. We bought her from Lenny Kravitz. It's a long story.
Cool.
And we keep her clean as a pin. We have a tight ship. We have a beautiful galley. As I say, we keep her clean, and she's fast. We found out in Texas that she's very fast. And so, on a full moon at 3 o'clock in the morning on one of those long Texas straight highways,
Yeah.
we found out she's very fast. But no, that's our home away from home. We're very comfortable on there. We have a great driver. Our driver Eddie drove for Taylor Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
He drove for Billy Gibbons from ZZ. He's driven for everybody.
Wow.
And he only lives about 20 miles from me out here in the country. And it worked out great. We can sleep when he's driving. He's such a great driver. We never worry about it at all. And we have a backup driver, our guitar player, Jerry Lida.
Yeah.
He is a great driver. He drives slower than Eddie, but it's very steady and solid. And I always know when I'm in my bunk, I know when Jerry's taken over for a minute to let Eddie rest his eyes. It's slower but very smooth.
Yeah.
So we're a well-oiled machine. Our crew of 3 ride with us, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nine of us on the bus, and everybody's got a nice bunk. We've lit them up really, with all the lighting you can buy at Walmart.
Yeah.
And, we I think one guy's got a mirror ball so, in his bunk. But we're very comfortable on the bus. A lot of times when we stop to let our driver rest, we won't, like run him into the ground.
Right. Yeah.
We'll get a room or two for the band to shower and use the restroom and kick back and watch TV. But a lot of the band members and the crew and myself included, I'm more comfortable just staying on the bus and waiting for the driver to get 10 or 11 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And then we move on. And the band, all of these guys in my band are successful businessmen. I'm 75 and they're like 60 and younger, and they're all, they have beautiful wives and children and homes and businesses. They're successful. They absolutely do not need this band to make money. I won't say they're independently wealthy, but they are. They've worked really hard for their wealth and their homes and
Right.
what have you, and they deserve them. But they love this music as much as I do, and they are so proud of this album. And guys, think about it. For a few weeks ago, for just a short period of time, the Dolly Parton album that we're on, where we play Freebird, we're number 30 on her album.
Yeah.
It was like number 1 in the world on many formats
Yeah.
because it's Dolly, and it felt kind of good to be on a number 1 record in the entire world.
Yeah.
And we rode in on Dolly's coattails. But she's on our album as well. We were the first ones to record with her on her new rock album. And I told Dolly, I said, I'm going to vote for you in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And she said, well, I don't know if I should accept it because I'm not a rocker and I don't know if I deserve it. And I said, well, Dolly, for goodness sakes, you're a humanitarian,
Right.
number 1 in the world. You're a singer, songwriter, movie star. You can play guitar as good as a man. I said, but you're a humanitarian. You deserve everything.
Right.
And she said, well, I guess this is the day that she played me her vocal on Freebird to our track that we recorded for her. And I mean to tell you, I boo-hooed like a baby It was so emotional, and that's before we lost Gary Rossington.
Right.
Right.
And right. So anyway, she said, "Well, Artemis, and I put Freebird on my album," and I said, the whole band said, I think unanimously, we all said, "Yeah."
It's Dolly,
you
of
know,
course. So.
it's Dolly, and of course with our album, our tribute to Ronnie Van Zant, his music and his band.
Mm-hmm.
Having Dolly on board on Freebird, that opened the doors to people like Sammy Hagar and all the other great artists that sang on the album, because they're all like, "Yeah, I'd like to be on an album with Dolly."
Yeah.
And so we're, with all of the trials and tribulations and the shenanigans, we are very proud of our work and the work that was put in to finish this record and finally get it out there. As I say, February 2nd, Groundhog's Day is the official release date. And I did mention that there's already 3,000 albums that are out there. So,
Yep.
the horse is out of the barn.
What was your favorite moment recording that album?
Well,
I know it's probably hard to pick one out, but
no, I mean, absolutely. It's pretty easy for me.
Yeah.
Sitting there at the console with Dolly
Mm-hmm.
at Kentwell's Studios there in Nashville, that moment where I heard her vocal for the first time, and it made me weep, tears of joy, tears of joy, but it was very emotional. And, the fact that Dolly is such a great human being, and, she put her arm around me and gave me a hug and made me feel better. And, Dolly is the best. And she's been married for many, many years to a great guy named Carl. Dolly could be married and date anybody in the world, but she was loyal to the person that she loved, and the person that she knew loved her, for not the fact that she was Dolly Parton, but the fact that Carl looked at her. This is my wife, and I love her very much, and they've always been in love. And I talked to Dolly about Carl in the studio and gave her a picture of the band, me playing drums, because and I signed it to Carl because he always encouraged Dolly on the rock side of music.
Right.
And then when she decided to accept the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nomination, and Dolly doesn't do anything halfway, she went out and did 30 songs with Paul McCartney and Ringo and
Elton.
Elton and everybody, all the greats. Dolly on her album, and we're so happy to be included.
Yeah. So you mentioned Dolly and Sammy Hagar, and who are some of the others on the album?
Warren Haynes from Allman Brothers and Government Mule. Ronnie Dunn from Brooks and Dunn. He sang Sweet Alabama.
Awesome.
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Okay.
A girl named Lindsay L. from Canada. She's 33, hotter than a firecracker, sweet as she can be. Guitar player, singer.
Yeah, I've heard of her.
Reminds me of a Canadian Sheryl Crow. Wait a minute. Sheryl Crow is from Canada.
That's right. She is.
Oh my God. But Lindsay is an amazing artist, and Low Cash. And I mean, Lee Brice. There's 14.
Okay.
I believe it's, and of course, one of the songs we wanted APB to represent. We had, Bradwell Durden. I call him Bradley, and he said, "No, I'm actually my name is Bradwell." And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But Brad has a beautiful Southern rock voice. He has a real voice, not one of those fake country rock grunts.
Yeah.
He's not a grunter. He's actually a vocalist with pipes and a real voice and a vibrato and tone control, and he sings in key, and he has intonation. And so he sang a song called On the Hunt,
right,
on the album. And we couldn't be happier. As far as I'm concerned, Brad, it was right up there with all of the other great vocalists that are on the record.
Mm-hmm.
His voice is a beautiful voice. So, and so is all of the rest of, and Billy Ray Cyrus, man, what a hoot. I mean, he sang Call Me the Breeze, right?
Yeah.
And Ronnie sang Call Me the Breeze up in a higher register.
Mm-hmm.
And then J.J. Cale, who wrote Call Me the Breeze, sang it in a lower register.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Billy Ray sang it right in the middle. He sang it like a common man, hitting the notes that, a lot of people will hear it and go, wow, I can sing along with that. I can actually sing along with Billy Ray, And so what he did is he sparked new life into the song. And I think he's made it, when it comes out and people start digging it, it's like a new road song,
Yeah,
you put the top back, and you crank it up, your system up as loud, and you go down the road and look at the ocean or the mountains, and it's like a road song. So he's ad-libbing through the whole thing, yelling, yeehaw, and all this kind of stuff, man. It's a hoot, and I love it. I really love it. And Ronnie Dunn from Brooks and Dunn, he sings Sweet Home Alabama, and the little Southern rock twang that he put on it was so cool.
Yeah.
Because he'd sing it with that Sweet Home Alabama,
right? Yeah.
little bit of a twang in there.
Yeah.
That Ronnie, certainly from Florida, had a Southern accent, but Ronnie didn't have a twang.
Right.
And Ronnie Dunn has kind of opened that song up to a whole new audience. And so that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to put modern technology and modern recording techniques and all the latest stuff, and getting that sonic sound that Kent Wells knows how to get, and the big fat drum sound that I got, and that I'm so happy with, and and put a little polish on these songs, and put them out there again, because nobody can record these songs better than they were originally recorded.
Right.
No band is going to be better than the original Lynyrd Skynyrd. No singer is going to sing Ronnie Van Zant's Freebird better than Ronnie. But it's just, we want to keep them in perpetuity, and put a little polish on them, and put them out there, and like a little renewed interest in the songs. Because why? Because Ronnie Van Zant and his band and his music deserve it. He deserves it. And so that's why we did it,
So are you going to do anything special for the release, or do you have any plans for that?
I don't know. I'd like to jump out of an airplane and, again. My last jump was 14,500 feet.
Wow.
Over North Carolina over there. I jumped with the Golden Knights from Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a different fort. What do they call it now? Fort Liberty?
Yeah, something.
They changed the name, but yeah, the Golden Knights jump team for the Army. They're, I'm a Marine, and I'll guarantee you, the jump school that they have out there for the Golden Knights, these guys are absolutely amazing. I would trust them, to jump out of an airplane any time at all. And they were my jump team when I did my last jump. And I never thought I'd jump out of a perfectly good airplane, but I did
it. Why?
Well, it was a hoot, that last second just before I released and let myself fall into space, up until that point, I wasn't nervous at all. And that one split second before I dropped out of the plane, I thought to myself, what in the hell am I doing? And but once I was airborne and looking at the planet and saw the curvature of the earth, and
wow.
and I was in free fall. It was incredible, man. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So
was that like a bucket list item for you?
Oh no. I'll do it. I'll do it again. It was, it was something that I always wanted to do. I didn't get to take jump school in the Marines.
Right.
because I was aviation electronics and I worked on A4C Skyhawks,
Uh-huh.
and I flew the back seat of the A4C Skyhawk trainers, the A4TFs and
I remember you talking about this last time a little bit.
A4Ts, and that was my dream, was to fly jets for the Marine Corps. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I told you last time, after my father was killed in a mid-airplane collision in Albuquerque, the dream changed, and I went from being a captain in the Marine Corps flying jets to a drummer in a rock band called Lynyrd Skynyrd. So life life throws you some curves sometimes.
Yeah, quite a transition. Well, Kat, what do you got?
Yeah, so Anthems, I think, is like a really iconic name for this album.
You know, I do. I love anthems.
Yeah, how did you decide which songs you were going to put on there?
Oh, that's hard. I mean, you got to do Sweet Home, you got to do Freebird, you got to do Simple Man. The rest of the songs, just kind of as the artist that were available. I mean, we wanted Bob Dylan because he loved Ronnie Van Zant, and he talked about Simple Man all the time. We wanted Neil Young because Ronnie and Neil were going to write music together, but Ronnie was killed, so that ended that. I wanted Jack White out of Nashville, to come on board. But scheduling is really hard when you've got all the different bands and artists. You know, they're just like us. They've got gigs, they have commitments. So everybody that was available and willing to be a part of the project, we welcomed them with open arms, and kind of made the set list around them. We could have done a quadruple album, but we had to confine it, because it's very expensive to do something like this too.
Sure.
And none of us have money to burn, but it was really important for us to get it done, and with the help of our record company, and they're called Get Joe Records. They're out of Texas, and they went through all the headaches that we went through, and they weren't really used to dealing with Nashville. They didn't realize that there's a lot of shenanigans, and our management company out of Nashville, under the circumstances, did the best that they could. Our PR people, and so it all is forgiven. We got it done. It was worth it. It's a great record. It's an incredible tribute record to Ronnie. I got to get Gary on there with Dolly, and so in answer to your question, Kat, the songs after we got Dolly and Ronnie Dunn, and of course Sammy Hagar on board, everything just kind of mapped out a natural progression. Everybody that was available, and we had people from Canada, we had country people, we had rock people. So it's a very different tribute record, and I can tell you, from the band's point of view, it is sincere and from the heart.
So, do you feel, with Gary's passing and now you being, the one that's left to carry on the legacy, do you feel like an increased duty, I guess, to do that?
Absolutely, Kat. I mean, I always stayed for a couple of hours after our shows, and I signed old albums, and people bring me pictures of Ronnie and the band, and and ticket stubs from coming to see us play in the 70s, where the tickets were like $6, and so I always felt a duty anyway, because the rest of the members weren't as accessible as and I love meeting people. I love hearing the stories. And you can imagine, I've heard hundreds of stories of people, a lot of bikers that bury their friends to Freebird. And, somebody's high school prom theme was Simple Man, and Freebird, and just all of the different applications to life that people, used. Ronnie wrote Simple Man for his mother and his grandmother, and I knew them. And a lot of people relate to that. Listen to what your mom tells you.
Mhm.
She's not going to, your mom, in most cases, is not going to steer you wrong.
Right.
So these songs are part of the fabric of not only America, but the world. I get feedback from all over the world about Lynyrd Skynyrd songs. There are fans of Ronnie Van Zant all over the planet. And so, yes, my sense of duty has been heightened, and I'm just going to continue to do what we've been doing, and that is, going out and playing the music live and taking the music in smaller towns and smaller venues. When it's small, I mean, we play festivals, 40,000 people, 50,000 people, but we play a lot of the theaters that have been, restored all over America, up north in
Mhm.
the northern states, all those old theaters that were just beautifully done, that sat empty for years and just went to seed. And the city fathers realized that they were diamonds in the rough, and went back in, completely restored them, and they're acoustically beautiful. I love playing these theaters. A lot of them, most of them have come back with state of the art sound and lights,
Mhm.
and you're already in a place that was built acoustically. So we get to play those and the outdoor festivals and huge, amphitheaters sitting on lakes. And we up in Minnesota on the Finger Lakes, the Glacier Lakes up there. They just built a brand new facility. We played there 3 times, called Arnold's Park, and it's right on the old Glacier Finger Lakes up there, and the water is crystal clear. The venue is state of the art. We just played there last summer, and and it was sold out. We just played in Rochester, New York, for the Jazz Festival on a Friday night. We had 10,000 people,
Wow.
and I almost cried when I got off our bus and walked onto the stage, and walked out there and looked out. I thought there'd be a couple thousand people,
Yeah.
but and it's when Rochester was under all that smoke coming from Canada, because the Canada was on fire.
Mhm.
Right.
And, Rochester's right there on the border, and there was a lot of smoke in the air. And I thought, well, there'll be a couple thousand people, but there was 10,000 people, street to street, street to street, outdoor, right in the middle of downtown, surrounded by the city. It was beautiful. And I saw 10,000 people, a sea of people. And I literally got emotional.
Hmm.
And we put in one of the best sets we've ever put in. So, I'm never disappointed by the people that show up that love the music, because people from all walks of life, young people, I mean, children, and the older people like me, 75 and above, they all have a favorite Skynyrd song. Probably the last 5 presidents of the United States of America have had somewhere in their heart a favorite Lynyrd Skynyrd song.
Hmm.
That means a lot to me. So, and think about Ronnie Van Zant, one of the greatest movies of all time, Forrest Gump. And Ronnie had 2 songs in that movie,
Yeah.
Freebird and Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah.
Right.
And remember when Forrest was teaching Jenny how to dance,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was Sweet Home.
Yeah.
So, the music, it's it's an amazing phenomenon, because no matter where I go, what little town in Texas or anywhere in America, there is a band that covers Lynyrd Skynyrd. There's a Lynyrd Skynyrd tribute band.
Mm.
I'm serious, almost in every city of this country, and I've played with many of them, and some of them are really good. They put a lot of work into the music, and then some of them are not quite as rehearsed,
Yeah.
but the spirit is still there.
All right.
They still play these songs with everything they've got, and they're playing with me. So, they're feeling like they have a connection
Mm-hmm.
to the real Lynyrd Skynyrd that they grew up and admired and loved. But 15, 16 years ago, I got tired of playing with 200 different bands, and I wanted to put something together that was solid. And, Brad and Jerry and Scott and I put the band together, and Dave came along later, has been with us for quite a few years. And we are a well-oiled machine, and everybody that hears us really enjoys the presentation. A couple places in the show we do acoustic. We break down to acoustic, no drums, just some percussion in the background, some chimes. And Jerry and Scott and Brad do beautiful 3-part vocal harmonies on Tuesday's Gone, and All I Can Do Is Write About It, and it gives everybody in the audience a chance not to be bombarded, by because we rock, and we bring it. We bring it. We are not timid, and we are ferocious. We are a ferocious band.
Perfect venue for you. So the next time you come back, or you're planning a tour back to Kentucky, you need to be at the train station in Corbin, Kentucky. It's a nonprofit, and they do a lot of arts for veterans as like healing and therapy, that kind of thing with art. So, and it's also one of those charming little venues like you're talking about. So,
I love that, Kat. We just played last year with my son's band, Pile Tribe. We played Corbin, and that's the home of Colonel Sanders, right?
Yeah.
And so I met Colonel Sanders when I was a little kid, and because I'm from Tennessee and Kentucky, and we traveled those old roads before I-75 went through there, and the place that we played was the old Ice House.
Oh.
That big cool venue there in Corbin, the Ice House, and it was a wild place, and we had a nice crowd. It wasn't packed or anything, but I'm from Kentucky. I was born in Louisville, and recently, you can edit this out if you want to. August 30th, I had back-to-back cancer surgery, prostate cancer surgery, and that was just in August 30th, and I am a Marine. I drank the water at Camp Lejeune. So when the doctor told me that I had a little prostate cancer, my vet doctor, they take good care of me. And I wasn't surprised at all. I said, well, doctor, I'd be surprised if I didn't have cancer because, the fact is, I'm a Marine. I was stationed at Camp Lejeune 4 times. And I went there, as a kid in the 50s, I went there to visit my uncle who was a Marine, first sergeant from the Korean War. My family would stay with his family on base and drink that water. So I would have been surprised if I didn't have cancer. Now I'm fine. The surgery that I opted for robotic surgery, and I said I don't want to mess around with it. I want it all taken out.
Yeah.
So they did that. I'm fine. But then, like right halfway through there's a point to my story. Right halfway through healing up, I took the month of September off to heal up properly. And my first show was in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, outside of Louisville there, E-Town.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to miss any of the shows. That was October 6th. And I didn't want to miss any shows because, we got Dolly on there, and we're promoting the new record, and I didn't want to miss anything. So I'm healing up, and halfway through my healing, at 4:00 in the morning, I had a massive heart attack.
Oh, geez.
And they rushed me to Hickory, North Carolina. 20 people jumped on top of me and took all my clothes off and and shot me up with morphine and saved my life.
Wow.
And they put a stent, they put a stent through my femoral artery, and now I'm on heart medication and everything. I take statin and the blood thinners and all that stuff, but I'm fine. And I know why I had the heart attack, because I was put under tremendous stress with this album.
Yeah.
All kinds of people up in Nashville lying about this and lying about that. It was driving me crazy. Why can't people just tell the damn truth?
Yeah.
We were trying to do something good for everybody to help everybody. And, we got all these people trying to taking cheap shots at us, but they didn't succeed. They did not succeed. But, having back-to-back cancer surgery and then a massive heart attack, all within like a month, I was worried about whether I would be able to play the way I should play. But October 6th, I was at a beautiful theater in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and the band told me I've done 30 gigs since, by the way. I never missed a single gig. And the band told me that I'm playing as good as ever, that, I just use smaller sticks
Mm-hmm.
because I use a 5B stick, a Vic Firth wooden tip 5B, which is a pretty meaty stick.
Yeah.
And I just pulled back to a wooden tip 7As. And I take all of my cramping, I drink pickle juice, I eat my magnesium, I use TheraWorks for cramping,
Mm-hmm.
I take my medication, I journal all of my medication, I take my own vitals every single day, and I don't miss it because, I have 8 children and grandchildren and I play music with them. And, you know, I'm not worried about my health. I'm fine. I'm going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
I am great, as far as my health, but I am 75 years old. So I realize now that I have to even watch what I eat even more. I was always a vegetarian and I ate, if I needed protein, I would have some white fish or white turkey, to bring my level up a little bit. I'm not anal, but I'm basically a vegetarian. And, I'm not a cigarette smoker. I do not smoke cigarettes. Um, wink, wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
But, that's been me. That's always been me.
Yeah.
I'm a liberal hippie, and, my band are conservatives, and if we can get along on that bus for thousands of miles, which we do, we're all good friends. I love those guys. And, I agree to disagree with them.
Mm-hmm.
They know how I feel about, politicians, and we agree to disagree. I'm not trying to ram anything down their throat, and they're not trying to convince me of anything.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that we do when we get on that bus is we go out, we play Lynyrd Skynyrd music for Lynyrd Skynyrd people that love good music, and we agree on that, and people love it. So, I thought I'd just let you know. I haven't said this in any of my interviews, but I'm telling you guys, and you don't have to, use it, but I'm fine, and I wouldn't want, any of my people that, and I do have enemies, the people in Florida that plane crash survivors that have their own conspiracy theories of what happened.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what happened on that plane from the perspective of the pilots and being a pilot other than I do. And most people were knocked unconscious. I was never knocked unconscious. I've had 3 airplane crashes.
Mm-hmm.
I've survived 3 of them, and I did go for help in the crash site for the Lynyrd Skynyrd crash. I did get shot, and all of these people, they weren't there. They weren't there. They don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I know what happened. They're just speculating and guessing, and they're all these big experts. Let them flap their lips. I don't care. I know what happened.
Right.
I told them the story in a movie. That movie was accurate, except for we had to use a different airplane because we couldn't afford, to rent one of those big tricycle landing gear like we used,
Right.
like we had. So we used a tail dragger, a C-117, which we called them Goonie Birds in the Marine Corps, and they have a very safe flying record, but they have a good looking cockpit and cabin area. They're twin engine and they sound good. They got that big growl like our plane had. So, that's what we used. But other than that, the movie was accurate. My son wrote music for it. My band wrote music for it. My friend wrote music for it. We were very proud of the movie and the soundtrack under the circumstances. It was no easy task either.
Yeah.
And nor was Anthems. And, Kat, what you said about Anthems, I love that name. We didn't come up with that. Our management company and record label came up with that, and I love it because the working title was honoring the music of Ronnie Van Zant and his band, and I'm lucky to be included. Well, Anthems is true because Ronnie didn't just write hit songs or hit albums. He wrote anthems that will be here 1,000 years from now. So,
Agreed.
I agree with you, Kat, and thanks for pointing that out.
Well, one more thing to point out to you. After the first time we had you on, several months later, we had Jared Kahn as a guest. And he's a movie director, and we had no idea that he had directed your movie. So we asked him, like, what's the favorite movie that you've directed? And he picked yours. And we're like, oh my goodness, we have interviewed him. And he's like, oh, I love Artemis and I love the story. And so it's a small world in that way. But I wanted you to know that he did say that was his favorite movie he's ever directed.
Well, that is so cool. Jared Cohn is a great guy. And, he and I wrote the screenplay for the movie. I flew out to California 5, 6 times working on the movie. And when I first went out there, after they asked me to do it, Cleopatra Films, I spent 2 11-hour days with Jared, we working up the story and me reliving it. And I mean, I was yelling and screaming and punching walls and laughing and crying and just, I mean, it was intense. It was very cathartic, but it was an intense thing to go through for Jared, him seeing the emotional impact that it had on me, but we got through it. And out of the screenplay, kind of, he was able to write his movie. He was able to write, the script.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had a budget of $1,800,000. The whole time we were doing it, we were being sued by $1,000 an hour blood-sucking weasel attorneys.
Oh, Lord.
But in the end, we won in the circuit court. 3 judges unanimously told, the other side that Mr. Pyle has a right to tell his story, so shut up. And we finished it. But it did cause a lot of problems, in working on the movie. And we ran into shenanigans on Anthems as well. But, all you can do is just try to navigate through and try to see light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep that light out there. I keep the carrot in front of the donkey because, to me, the way my feeling about music is the greatest gig I've ever done in my life will be the next show, and while we're playing the show, the greatest song is the next song because there might be that golden magic moment that makes it all worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
And we get those all the time when the crowd sometimes sings louder than we're on stage and we can hear the crowd, and it's a phenomenon. It really is wild. And we love those magic moments. They're golden.
So, Artemis, you got the album coming out, and you're going to be touring, I assume, this year.
We never stop touring,
right,
Matt.
Right.
We're always touring. We're not like bands that you have big budgets that go out, for 6 months and play, every arena and every soccer stadium and every place in the world. We don't do that, but we go out on the weekends, Warriors, we do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And, we take care of our driver. We don't run him into the ground. And we make sure if we have to leave 2 days early to get somewhere, for the shows to begin, that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We are dedicated and loyal to this band. And I'm loyal. The guys are loyal to the music and I'm loyal to them. So yeah, we will continue to tour. Exactly.
Any other projects you have going on?
I'm working on an album with my son Marshall.
Oh, cool.
And we're going to record in Winston-Salem, North Carolina at a beautiful studio that was just built in a 1948 vintage building in downtown Winston-Salem, 30,000 square feet. A friend of mine bought it and turned it into this unbelievable studio. I've been in studios all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
This place is second to none. I'll never record another album in Nashville, Tennessee. And so my son Marshall's album will be in Winston-Salem. My son Chris's album, we're going to record it as well. Pyle Tribe.
Mm-hmm.
That's my other band. I'm the drummer of Chris's band. My son Chris is the lead singer and vocalist, and he wrote all of the material. And
Wow.
so he's 52 now, and we rock. I mean, we're a legacy band. No other member of Lynyrd Skynyrd has children that are professional musicians, and all my kids are.
That's so
You
cool.
know, they're all about the music. And then APB, we're going to record an album of all original material in the Asheville, North Carolina area.
Mm-hmm.
We've got several studios to choose from. We're going to go record a song in each one of them and see which one sounds what we're looking for. We have that luxury. And then we're going to get to work on an all original APB Southern rock album. And I guarantee you, right now, I'll put it up against any Southern rock album ever put out.
All right.
And
awesome.
our guys are good. And so, we were talking today about a European tour, going over and doing the festivals in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
There's some interest in us coming over there.
Wow.
Because we don't demand $100,000 or $200,000
Right.
because we call our band Lynyrd Skynyrd. We're not greedy. We like to get paid like anybody else, but we don't mind earning our money. And so, you know, I talked to Australia, Sydney, the other day, and they would like us, you know, APB to come to Sydney, Australia. And we were on our way to Sydney, Australia on the 95 city world tour
Mm-hmm.
that we were on when we crashed our airplane. We were only 5 shows into a 95 city world tour,
Wow.
ending up in Sydney, Australia. So there's interest in us coming to Sydney. There's an Australia, and of course, playing there.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some interest in playing the Hawaiian Islands. We have a friend over there
Cool.
that would, you know, not just going to play one show on the main island, but playing smaller places, even clubs
Yeah.
all over the Hawaiian Islands. I love playing clubs.
Yeah.
You know, it's an intimate atmosphere, and I like people being able to be close to the band and seeing what I do. I love showing off.
Yeah.
You know,
I
so
couldn't tell.
we're thinking onward and upward. And by the way, guys, Kat, Matt, thank you for the questions, because it affords me the opportunity to, you know, to go there and let people know that we're not letting any grass grow under our feet. We're going to move forward until it's time for me to get on one of my horses and go ride out into the pasture.
All right.
And,
well, speaking of time, we're going to let you go because you've given us an hour and we really appreciate it.
Can't wait to see you guys. You see us playing close by, come and see us.
We definitely will. You can come back and see us anytime.
You got my telephone number, so call me if you need me, if something comes up.
All right.
You know, Kat, if you've got something, and like you were talking about that gig in Kentucky. I mean, we are a band. We like to play music, and you know, all of our stuff goes through Blue Raven Entertainment out of New Jersey. A man named Sean. He's a great guy. He believes in the band. He's got my back. You know, if somebody calls up and says, we'd like to have the Artimus Pyle Band, but somebody told us that Artimus might be a bad guy. You know, Sean does not mess around like they do in Nashville, where they cheese and fold up like a lawn chair. Sean says to the people, hey, look, you know, whatever they said about Artimus that is bad, it's not true. He's a good person. He loves children. He loves his family. He loves his band. He plays the music better than anybody else. If you pass, it's your loss. So get on board, or, you know, you don't let the door hit you in the ass. You know, that's the kind of agent you want on your side.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much,
All right.
Artimus.
Great. Yes, and I did listen to Simple Man. Love that. That's great with Sammy Hagar too.
You can hear the hurt, the cry in his voice. Do you know what I mean by the cry in a voice?
Yes.
Elvis had a cry in his voice. He could. Dolly Parton has that cry in her voice, and you can hear in Sammy's performance of Simple Man, and he's showing out, man. He's doing that for Ronnie, and you can hear that cry in his voice, which means anytime I hear somebody go deep like that, I know that it's sincere. So yeah, Sammy did a great job on that, and I toured with Sammy when, as I told you, he was in the band Montrose,
Right.
Ronnie Montrose.
Yep.
And then Sammy went on to, reach for the stars.
Mm-hmm.
He still is,
Yeah.
But
sure.
love you guys. Stay safe, stay warm, and hope to see you soon.
As always, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, you can send those to Kat at iWritePlays@outlook.com, or you can write to me at backstorysessions@gmail.com or matt@level11ventures.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.